Hey YouTubers, Randall here from Dreamtime Garage. Just wanted to shoot a quick video and show you a new car this project just picked up. It's a 2002 Firebird. Picked this thing up for $600. Yep, it's got something wrong. It won't shift. Transmission sticks in reverse and second gear are the two worst. That's always the fun part. You know something's wrong, right? Yep. Well, it runs great. That's a good thing. No check engine light. 5-speed shifter. Clutch is good. Didn't slip or nothing. Just lock solid into gear. So I figured it had to be the shift bushing. So we went ahead and picked it up. Brought it home. Replaced the shift bushing. Wasn't too bad of a deal. 30-minute job. Didn't fix the issue. So to replace that shift bushing, first thing you got to do is pull the console down inside of the back compartment there. You got 2 screws. Pull your ashtray out. You got 1 screw under there. Shifter knob, shifter boot pops up out of there. On this one we have the traction control unit down there that had to be pulled out, the switch and light. Undo your cigarette lighters once it starts coming out, and your last 2 bolts are up here at the front. So you got 5 bolts total. Those are all 10mm. Pull those, pull your e-brake all the way up. When you think you got it all the way, go a couple more notches. With the shifter boot and ball off, console will lift up and go towards the back. That'll come right up out of there. Once you get that out, there's another rubber boot down underneath of the shifter. Sealed that, and that's what seals the floor. Keeps all your fumes out and everything. Okay, so we got that all done, put back in. Guess what? Didn't fix a thing. Car still locked solid into reverse. Feels like you're gonna rip the shifter out of the floor trying to get it unstuck. So let me show you this other piece here. Tail shaft housing, otherwise known as an extension housing. This is what you're going to be looking at when you got that rubber boot that covers this whole section and seals down to the floor. Unbolt that, and this is what you're looking at. You got 4 bolts there around the shifter. Pull those 4 out. If I recall, those were 13mm, I think. Pull those out and your shifter will just lift right up out of there. That easy. There's no gasket there, just has a little bead of gasket sealer, so you want to replace that. This is what you're looking at when you look down in there, and that's exactly what it looks like, other than you'll have a shifter rod coming out of that hole there, comes through this detent lever. Now usually there's a plastic bushing that sits in there, and this one was completely gone. Usually that's the problem. That's what we replaced initially, and that didn't fix the problem. So we figured it had to be in here though, so we dug a little deeper. But there's really not too much more to it other than that. There is a little brass swell pin that goes in that hole, and that goes through the shift rod there. So the way you get that off is you just tap that down with a little punch. Tap it where it's just below the rod there, and that'll allow the detent lever to slide forward off of the rod. Once that happens, you'll be able to lift it up out. Don't worry, there'll be a ball bearing and a spring that'll just be laying there. The spring goes inside of here. Our old ball bearing is lost, but it will be laying right in here somewhere. And that pretty much is all you generally can take apart at this point. But what we found odd at that point was this plate down here wiggles around. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got almost an 1/8 inch of movement in there. Quite a bit, real sloppy. So we noticed when we shift through the gears, this would be sliding around all the time. A lot of times that ball bearing get kind of stuck up on the side or get hung up in between. Shifter be just jammed solid. So we pull this up out of there. Got little ears around the edge there. You can see those on camera. Down in that hole there, see how thick it is on one side and thin on the other? That hole is all kinds of wallered out. Keep in mind, this car's got 117,000 miles on it, and it runs great. So how it ever got that bad, I don't know. But that's why you're looking at an extension housing on the ground, because there's only one way to fix that, and that's to replace the housing. Not too bad though. Start with pull your drive shaft out. You got one bolt on your transmission mount. Get a jack under the tranny. Then you're gonna have to unbolt your cross member. Pull that down out of the way. You got 8 bolts up here going into the transmission. Pull those off. Slide the whole extension housing back. You will have your tail shaft and your shifter rod those will stay sticking out of the transmission. So that's basically, you got to slide back far enough to come off of them. Pretty simple, straightforward job. Took us about 3 hours. We did this in the car on a chilly afternoon, so really not too bad and that now it shifts absolutely perfect. It couldn't get any better. So with all of that as worn out as it was, we ended up having to replace the shifter also. This was his old one. I don't know if you can see it there on camera, but the end of that shifter, that's supposed to be a nice round ball. As you can see, it's clearly not, and that probably explains why there was no plastic bushing left in there. The end of that rides in that bushing. Alright, and then if you do end up doing this job or half of this job, there's no gaskets required. This surface here going to the transmission and your shifter, no gasket, just a small bead of gasket sealer. Make sure you don't overdo it, especially on the front one there. You don't want so much that it's mushing all inside of the transmission. That'll cause you even more problems. And then the other tricky part is this here, getting this spring. It doesn't like to stay into place, so if you'll pack that hole there with grease and then slide your spring in, it'll stay in there for you. And then also real important, down on this detent plate here, make sure you grease that area all up real good and back in here. And then you'll want to set your ball bearing, and we've lost ours, but it's about a 1/4 inch steel ball bearing. You're going to set it right in the center here. That'll be in the neutral position, and that grease will kind of hold that in there. And then you'll set this in, and as you do that and slide it forward onto your shift rod, then you kind of look, that'll all stay in place. It usually does. Then you can slide your new bushing in, little grease inside of that bushing as well. That'll help keep that bushing from wearing out prematurely. Alright, so I hope that helps some of you guys out. If you or your buddy's car's sticking in gear and having issues, take him over to the video here and pop your console out, unbolt your shifter, real simple. More than likely replace that bushing before you have to go as far as we did, but if you do, here's the info you need. There's not much on it, not much info out there that I could find on this issue other than the bushing itself. So anyway, like, share, and subscribe, and come on back when you have another problem or just want to watch a little entertainment. Thank you.